Welcome to Tammy's Soul Speak, featuring animal intuitive and medium Tammy Hendricks, offering insight, spirituality, transformation, and clarity to every soul. Now, here's Tammy.
Hello, everybody. Welcome, welcome. It's Wednesday. Hope your middle of the week is a good one so far. It's frozen tundra here. I don't know where you are in the world, but is it cold? Is it warm? This side of the country is super, super cold. We're probably 20 degrees outside now. I know plenty of you live in areas that are far colder than that. And some of you probably live in areas that are far warmer than we are. It's crazy weather. It's crazy times. But I'm glad that you have decided to make yourself a priority by visiting here and taking time out of your busy day. And I appreciate all the collaboration that we do on each and every show. It's wonderful to always feel it and see it. And I always am excited to see what we get to create next together and what the animals want us to see and hear, what they want us to listen to. So as you come into the room and get settled, good evening, Claire. It's good to see you. So from an unusually cold Wales. It's good to have you here again. And Cindy, you're in Virginia and it's 20, so we're matching our temperature. Susie, hello. It's good to see you. And hi, Mary from cold Fort Mill, South Carolina. I'm pretty sure if you're on this side and we're close to each other, we're mirroring. And yesterday it was strange weather here. It was icing, flurries, the roads were freezing, and then it was gone. And then it came back in the afternoon. So everybody was scrambling. It was definitely a loaf alert at the stores, which if you say snow here, I know it's not so much up north, but if you say snow, oh my goodness, the stores get mobbed and all the milk, all the eggs, all the bread get gone. So, come into the room, I like seeing everybody where you are. Oh, Jeannie, it's good to see you. Rainy here in California. Hi, Marge. Good to see you. And Maria, nice to see you again. Virginia. Hi, Jennifer. Yay, from Las Vegas. Oh my gosh, Marge, it's -6 in Wisconsin. Oh my goodness. I hope you have a heated coat. I had my heated coat out and pressed my little button, went out there all toasty. This is so wonderful. Hi, Leslie from the UK. Good to have you here. Indiana, finally out of single digits here, getting snow in Washington. Hi, Roseanne from New York, and Susie from Southern California. Oh my gosh, don't we all wish we were there right now? 60s to 70s, that's good biking weather. Hi, Jocelyn, and it's good to see you from Canada. Are you cold? Yeah, it's crazy. It's crazy how we're flipped different directions with everything these days. So I'm glad you're coming in, and we get to spend a good amount of time together learning and listening. And I'm, as always, super excited to talk about interesting subjects that the animals guide us toward. Patty says she's, yes, horses love Temecula instead of Big Bear. Yes. And Laura, having trouble getting live. Aren't you live if you're commenting? I'm confused. Cindy, it's only 51 at Disney World. Oh my gosh, Disney World, rude. Nancy, from snowy Beaver Valley, Ontario. Love it. Well, even though it's cold, I'm glad you came here because we're a warm group. And the subject today is super warm, super engaging, all about intuitive listening, one of my very, very, very favorite subjects to talk about regarding the animals. And I had a lot come in that was last minute scrambling, as only the animals love to give me these last minute messages. So I'm always at the ready. I'm always listening. That is truly who I am. I'm always intuitively listening. So, there's a lot of ways we can think about animal communication. Animal communication always includes the intuition that you feel. And it's part of our relationships with one another. It's part of feeling things. It's an ongoing process. Communication is an ongoing and it's relational. It's having a relationship with yourself and all of life. So, question for you as you're still coming into the room. And hello, Greg. I've thought of you. Good for you to be back. Yay. How many of you feel you're intuitive? Curious. You know, I think about how you all find the show, how you come to it, how your animals guide you here. That's all intuition, every bit of it. So, intuition, if we, I guess, open it up for the discussion, and it's a much more talked about word right now, is the ability to understand or know something immediately without the need for conscious reasoning. It's clear, it's objective, neutral, and it's a cool energy, if you think about it that way. Often described as a gut feeling or an instinctual response. I often have told my vet, and doctors are like this too. They are very, very intuitive, although they probably wouldn't say it that way. But I've watched it with my vet so often, and the way he processes information and feels things, it's just beautiful. It's natural. So for all of us, it is a natural gift that we all have, but it's not analytical thinking, which is logical and methodical. Intuition is more about nonlinear understanding of situations and people. I always say it involves like a playful space of curiosity and wonder and intrigue. You're interested in life like a child, but this is before cell phones and iPads, like the interest of children running around, playing outside. What's the fastest way to connect with your intuition? I'm curious. Do you know? What is it for yourself? I see many of you say, yeah, I'm intuitive. Absolutely. I would agree. If you're on this show, you are intuitive and you've recognized that. So what's the fastest way for you to connect with your intuition? We might learn something for ourselves in what you share. Claire says, the heart. Yeah, I love that. Mary says, I feel like I still need to work on it somewhat. We are all works in progress. And the day we finish up, we stop growing. So we always want to be growing. We always want to be curious, like a wonderment. Like I wonder about that. Those open-ended questions that open up the space. Marge says it just comes to me. Marge, that's interesting. Where does it come to you? Does it come to you in your finger? Does it come to you in your foot? Where does it come? How does it come? Where do you feel it in your body? Patty Week says, pay attention. Yeah, we're going to talk about that today. I hope you're paying attention, by the way. Barb says, when I write, my intuition comes. That's how you connect to it. That's beautiful. I do that as well. There's so many ways we can get in there real fast and drop in. We don't have to sit and spin and chant something. We got this. And Tete says, sometimes I see it, but don't see it as if it makes sense. Let's see. Sometimes I see it, but don't see it if it makes sense. Yes, that does make sense. The seeing is an inner seeing, right? It's an inner seeing, like it's an inner knowing. Yeah, Marge is still going to let us know where it comes to her in her body. I'm so curious for you all too. Where do you feel it? Because our bodies, intuitive listening and bodies go together. Your intuition is about your body. Nancy says, I get it in so many ways. One of the easiest ways is to go outside. That's the fastest. Connect with the natural world. Nature is always communicating. Roseanne says, I feel it in my solar plexus. Also journaling. Yes, I agree. I have felt that too. Writing, journaling opens the channels up really quickly. When we're outside, all of our senses get activated at the same time, and animals naturally live in the space of presence and availability. Intuition is fluid, it's flexible, but it's always changing. So you're not, I've got a good little practice for you that just dropped in. Pops into my head. Me too. It just happened. So a good way to practice your intuition. I'm not a big football fan, but when I've ever been watching or passing the TV and football's on, and at the bottom where they have the scores and you have the different colors of the teams. It's not that Tammy knew what teams were playing. I may or may not have, but my eye would be drawn to those scores. And so I just had fun one day and I found, oh my gosh, it's so much fun. It works. You can actually go from one to the other, like let your eye drop on one score and the image and your eye drop on that, and just go back and forth with kind of I wonder who's going to win this game. Just curious, be very curious. Like you don't need to know, just playing around with it. And you will feel something a little bit stronger on one side versus the other. Now, the thing about this is energy shifts, and in a game, it's going to shift, right? So it would be something good for you to practice if you're wanting to tune in a little bit more in a practical way, in a fun way. But yeah, the energy will shift in a game. It'll go from this team winning to that team winning. It's really fascinating to track it. Laura says, I didn't feel mine and I lost my boy Winston because of it. Or I didn't follow mine. Oh, we can talk about that as we go through the show. That's a hard one too, because we are inflexible with ourselves. We don't allow ourselves to what we would call make mistakes or misread. And in fact, you never do make a mistake. It's all in perfect order. Susie says, I'm a football fan and I can sense who is a stronger team and who probably will win. Isn't that fun? I think that's super fun. Once you're connected to all your different senses, you're in all the time. You become open, you become more receptive. And so if we break up, the topic today to intuitive listening, let's take a look at intuition and all the different types. So Renee, if you would put that graphic up. So as you can see, we've got emotional intuition, we've got physical intuition, cognitive intuition, creative intuition, spiritual intuition, dream intuition, social intuition. I'm sure there are other, descriptors out there. These are the main ones that have dropped in. And I'm wondering, as you're looking at this, where you feel like you fall on, in the list. And my guess would be you have many, many pieces of this. Given the circumstances, it would change. And so Renee, if you would, we're going to look a little deeper into each one as I speak. Be thinking about yourself. Be thinking about how the key aspects of intuition help you tune into the world. So emotional intuition, Renee, do you not have that, Renee? There should be a breakdown. So if you'll go back to the first one, go back to the intuition. Thank you. This style, I'll just read them out and listen. So emotional intuition. If you'll leave that up, Renee, that'd be great. This style is based on reading and interpreting emotional cues. People with strong emotional intuition are very empathetic, able to sense and feel the moods of others easily. Challenge with this one. If you have a lot of emotional wounds that you haven't worked with yet, that haven't been quite processed, that you haven't healed, your intuition won't be a clear read because you'll be reading from the filter of your wounds. So it's really, really important that, we know how to get clear within ourselves. We know when we're doing that and when we're not. So as I'm seeing what you feel like where you fall in on this list, physical intuition. How many of you feel that? I see Marge says she's physical and cognitive. Some individuals experience intuition as sensations in your body. For example, what is that called? The gut feeling. That you actually feel when somebody, you can sense it. Like if somebody's shoulders are hurting, you sense because your shoulders start hurting. That's one of the most common types of intuition. Cognitive intuition, like what just happened with me, where it just dropped into the field, it involves making quick, unconscious kind of assessments and judgments. It's often seen in people who can make fast decisions or have sudden insights without fully understanding the logical steps that led them there. The challenge on the cognitive is, when we make fast decisions and we misinterpret it, oh, that's my intuition, from a space of anxiety, that won't be a clear read. So it's just important to know what's clear for us. And you can feel that. I know all of you have felt that clarity versus the confusion. And Jolene says, when I'm stressed, I can't feel anything. Nancy, I hear thoughts, get gut feelings, tingles, and more. I love it. I do that too. It's a mixture, so it's always good to understand ourselves. Tay says, and if I ignore it, it will keep coming over and over until I acknowledge it. Yes, that's a really good point. It does. It will keep circling around to get our attention over and over again. Susie says, I relate to all of them, but not sure about the dream. So the creative intuition is, often found in artists, writers, musicians. This style involves tapping into the intuition for creativity and motivation. It's about seeing connections and possibilities that aren't immediately obvious. Some of you talked about tapping into it when you write. Yes, that's definitely anything creative. I know a lot of you paint, or we do creative things, even cooking, something, whatever's creative, you're tapping into that space. Spiritual intuition, that would be like a deep inner wisdom or connection to higher guidance. Have any of you felt that? This style often involves trusting in the guidance of the higher power or the universe. This may be falling into the people who are saying, I had that insight, I didn't listen to it, I didn't listen to my inner voice. Jeannie says, all but creative. Oh, Jeannie, I think you are creative too. The very creative, the way you tap into connections. That's a creativity, how we connect with people. So dream intuition, some people receive intuitive insights through their dreams. Have any of you all had that? Vivid dreams that offer guidance, solutions to problems, creative ideas. Nancy says, definitely spiritual intuition. Roseanne says, I sometimes wake up during the night with a whole thought or song or line of music in my head. Do you jump up and write it down? What do you do with that? That sounds super exciting. I would have to jump up and do something with that, because that's a fun little input, like a rush of energy. Jeff says, varying levels of all of them depending on what the situation is or what I'm trying to accomplish. Yeah, these are all practical things that we've all experienced, even though you may not really put attention on it. Roseanne says, I do write it down. Good. Dreams that repeat numerous times. Oh, how interesting. I hope you write those down. Mary says, I dream very vividly. I think, for a lot of us, it's just easier for guidance to come. And that's also how spirit communicates. And animals and human spirits, very easy for them to communicate in our dreams, which I would term visitations, because, we're not defended, where we've kind of relaxed that part of ourselves. It's like on guard, looking around. And Roxy says, yes, happens a lot. Most of my intuition comes through my dream state, but it's more experiences with large animal beings, either walking along with me or guiding me. I love that. The more open we are to it, the more we invite it to come in. Marge says, not sure of social intuition, which is, this involves intuitively understanding social dynamics, being able to read unspoken cues in certain settings. People with strong social intuition are often very adept at navigating complex social environments. So I think that's crowds overwhelm. Marge says, where I have to leave. I'm not sure you're not picking up on some of the collective energy though, Marge. So you are actually reading the room, very aware of it. Susie says, I just don't understand why my mother never shows up in my dreams. I don't have everybody that has ever passed show up either in my dreams. Some of my animals have really never shown up. Others have, just sometimes we communicate, and she will communicate in other ways than dream. So we have to be careful about putting it into kind of like a label or a structure where they have to show up this way. And if we're not getting that, something's wrong. So if we jump over to the listening part, how many of you feel like you're good listeners? All the time? Some of the time? When certain circumstances support that? Today, for instance, have you paid attention to your listening? The styles that we listen can all be different based on our personality, our cultural background, our experiences, personal preferences, circumstances. Roxy says she is a good listener. So again, just like intuition, there are different types of listeners. Let's see what kind of listener you are. Renee, if you would put that graphic up. Here we go. So there's active listening. Just think about it a minute as I go through it, and then I'll explain it. Passive listening, receptive listening, reflective listening, critical listening, empathetic listening, selective listening, competitive listening. And I think I actually gave you the next slide, which hopefully they can read along with me, about active listening. Thank you. Involves fully concentrating, understanding, responding, and then remembering what is said. Active listeners are engaged and responsive during conversations, showing empathy and interest. Have we all been active listeners, at least at some point? Passive listening, characterized by limited feedback and a more laid-back, observant approach. Passive listeners may not outwardly show their engagement, but they are still attentive. When would you have been a passive listener? Is that maybe you're doing something else, but you're paying attention at the same time? Or have you ever talked with somebody and then said, you didn't hear a word I said. You repeat back to me what I just said last. Some people are paying attention over here, but there's a part of them very clear and paying attention everywhere. Roxy says, I find that meditation is key to opening up and balancing our energy in order to connect to higher consciousness. And perhaps communication will be easier as you practice. For me, anyway, I absolutely agree. The more we practice inner stillness through meditation, through going outside, doing what it is to calm the chatter and to allow us to be more observant, is one of the best ways to continue to open up and continue to open up, which is what I think we want to do. So the next piece of the listening, Renee, if you would put that up, critical, hang on, there should be receptive listening, being open and responsive to the speaker's message. It involves actively receiving and processing the information while showing understanding and interest. Are you a receptive listener? And then reflective listening focuses on understanding and reflecting back the emotions and feelings underlying the message. Reflective listeners often paraphrase or summarize what they've heard to ensure understanding. You would think they are the same, but they're really not. That there is a difference between passive listening, receptive listening, and reflective listening. Claire says the listening depends on who I'm listening to. And do we listen differently to music? What kind of listener are we there? I mean, there's a whole discussion around this of talking, what kind of listening outside, listening to your animals, listening to somebody talking. So what about critical listening? Renee, if you'd put that up, involves analyzing and evaluating information being received. When would we use this? Like, critical listeners are focused on accuracy, plausibility, evidence for the arguments presented. Critical listeners, would that be vets, doctors, attorneys? What else? Have you been a critical listener? I mean, it has its place, certainly. Empathetic listeners, emphasizes understanding the speaker's perspective and emotions. Empathetic listeners are highly attentive to emotional nuance and expression, understanding, and compassion. This is very, very important for animals, and use all the time with and blending all the others. Diane says, I used in the classroom as a teacher. Yes, I would agree. There you go. Critical listening. What about selective listening? How involves focusing only on certain parts of the conversation that interest the listener, often ignoring or missing other parts. Maybe that selective listening. Have any of you ever experienced that? Have you done that yourself? Like you pick and choose. What about competitive listening? When the listener's focused on their own point of view than understanding or addressing the speaker's message. They might be waiting for a chance to speak or counter the argument, like a debate. And, as we, focus on each style, each has its place and effectiveness depending on the context, right? And the nature of the communication. So understanding and adapting one's listening style can lead to more effective communication across the board. So which one of those, of all of them, do you think we need to use when we're working with animals? Do we need competitive listening? Do we need critical listening? What do you feel like we need? Amy says, I do a lot of selective listening with my husband. It's good to see you, Amy. Yes, I hear you. Don't we all do that at certain times? Intuitive listening, I would say, if I had to pick, let me think. The empathetic listening, Claire says. Yep, Jeannie says empathetic listening and active listening. It's definitely receptive listening for sure. And actually, intuitive listening encompasses a lot of the different styles. So we're using and pulling from them. But if you interface in the world in this way, you create a channel for the most subtle messages to come through. This is like the true life channel. The nuances and the subtleties. And if you want to tune into a station that's broadcasting all the time, this is the one you want to tune into. So Renee, if you put up the graphic, the cat, there should be a cat. So how many of you have cats? I'm sure a lot of you here. And how many of you agree that cats always seem to be aware of their surroundings, sleeping with one eye open? It's like the mom who has the eyes in the back of their heads, and the kids are like, how do you know that? That's intuitive listening. Heather says empathetic listening for sure with my animals. And Mary says, I can pick up on certain parts of a conversation nearby while actively listening to another conversation. I love that. I've done that too. Isn't that interesting when that starts happening? You're really aware of the field. And Roxy says, as soon as you said receptive listening, my Bella picked up her head, looked at me, and then locked eyes and put her head back down. Perhaps I should work on receptive listening. I love that. And Marge said, Ferguson sleeps like that. So very cute. Intuitive listening involves observation, stepping outside of your personal self and into your expanded self. So how keen of an observer are you? What do you notice in daily life? How present are you? How many details do you notice at once? We were just talking about that. Have you ever really paid attention? I'm sure we all have. So, when we know something without realizing how we know, Renee, if you put up that graphic, this is like the knowing it, and the other person is like, what? How did you know that? So there's Ralph, and Ralph is thinking about doing what? Chasing the squirrel. And Ralph's mom is like, before you even go there, how many of you had, our moms did this? Don't even think about it. Don't think about chasing those squirrels, Ralph. And that is a part of that intuitive listening. So, our inner stillness opens the window to perspective, and perspective is born from that space. It's listening on a softer, broader level. It's a soft, expanded focus through your auditory senses, but involves your intuition. So we're combining. It's listening on a much deeper level. It's the level where energy patterns can be discovered. Here's another graphic that I thought you would like. Renee, if you would put up the vet clinic. So you see where she's like, oh, hey, buddy, you want to go inside and get a new toy? And the dog's like having none of it. He's like, this does not smell like a toy store to me. No matter how happy you act, you cannot fool me. Don't our animals know? I mean, we can try to pull one over on them, but they know. It's so funny. So memory for you, when you were a kid, Did you ever listen to your parents without them knowing it? Think of the proverbial party going on downstairs, the talk going on downstairs, and the kid comes on the stairway and is kind of listening in. Do you remember how you were listening then? Do you remember what information you were picking up? How many of you did that? I know I did that without even realizing I did it. It was like picking up on all the channels everywhere, and being able to discern what it is. Children are really good listeners, really good listeners. They cut through, they can see straight through. They will say, well, I don't believe what you're saying. They're like animals. Animals are like, no, they're not happy. They're putting on a little smiley face, but they're really upset. Mary says, yes, I listened all the time. Childhood is a wonderful area and period that we get that time to really practice that. Oh, I love that. Jolene says, I sat under the quilting frames and listened. And Claire says, that was me every time. And Heather says, absolutely happens all the time with Ollie and Georgie. I talk to them. They look at me. Yes, I love that. And I talk to them. So just going to throw some things out, see if any of you resonate with this. Have you ever watched the news and felt something other than what they were saying with the anchors? Listened to a friend and felt they weren't really telling you the truth or what they were really feeling? You know, you can hear it in a voice. Have you heard someone tell you a story about what happened? There's just something you could feel on a much deeper level. Jeannie says, absolutely. So Jeff says, yes, I knew things as a kid that confused my parents, but made perfect sense to me. Yes, I remember that feeling too. It's the channel we were all tuned into. And, you know, maybe we hadn't been talked out of that yet. So I'm curious, when you hear it in a voice, what do you do? Do you ask the person some questions? How do you handle that? What do you do with what you feel? Do you take it a step further to ask them if they can open up if it's appropriate? Obviously, we can't force anybody to open up, and we can't force animals to open up either. It has to be by invite only, I say. We always invite people in to share themselves with us and more. Yes, Roxy says, all the time it happens automatically for me. Sometimes I can't even explain how I know. So you're practicing intuitive, right? And that's the best way to be. Just life is going to give you a practice. Life is the teacher. We learn by direct experiences. The words aren't going to teach, and we're all going to have our own ways we intuit it and listen. And the more we talk, the more we get entrained and attuned to listening to each other, which I just love. Diane says, I move on unless I feel it's necessary. Got it. And Tete says, open-ended questions. And Roxy says, yes, I'm always open and honest. I'm transparent. Always ask if you're comfortable with love and compassion. I think that's beautiful. Inviting them in. Relate a similar experience to make them feel comfortable. Jeannie says, soften my energy and let them know I'm there in case they need anything. That's beautiful. It's a beautiful invitation. Softening the energy is always good. And, when we speak from a space of love, people can hear us. And Deanna says, I ask for help in knowing what words to use that would be understood and the other may need to hear. That's beautiful. So what you're describing, it's like being at one in the moment, even while you're engaged with all your five senses. We don't even sometimes realize that we are natural tuning forks. We're naturally tuned in. We're a receiving station. Our bodies receive it. And then we translate the energy really fast. Present moment awareness is very available to you all the time. It's never absent. It's also the part of you that catches everything. So using this skill with animals is richly rewarding, for you literally tune into their frequency and communicate from that space. So some of you are saying, I have had trouble communicating. I don't feel like I hear them. So how do you build that connection? How do you understand and connect from that space? Well, for one thing, you attune to the subtle cues from your pet. So Renee, if you would put the graphic up called Building the Connection, I'd like to share with you all, and let's look at it together. Some of these you're going to already know, maybe some you're not going to have thought about. Observing body language, that would be like animal communication 101, right? Taking a look at what subtle cues they're giving you at any time, tuning into vocalizations, sensing emotions, empathetic engagement, mindful presence, trusting intuition, learning individual differences, creating a calm environment, and as we all know, patience and consistency. So I'm hoping I gave Renee where we can all look at the more detailed observing body language and so forth. So the body language, much of an animal's communication is through right body language. So for us too, intuitive listening involves carefully observing movements, gestures, expressions to understand their feelings and intentions. I'm going to bet most all of you do that, and you do it with people too. Tuning into their vocalizations, like the nuances in their barks and purrs and whistles. My Molly had different barks for different communication, and you could tell it in a minute what she was wanting or needing or wanting to instruct me on. She was definitely my teacher. It can provide insights into their emotional state or needs. Purrs are obviously we feel they're content. Whatever, when my animals start a howl on the property, one area will start, then the others will join, and then the others will join. And it's just like beautiful music that they are just hearing their own voices. I know Jolene is questioning about Gunnar. Gunnar loves his voice and he loves to hear his voice. She had asked a question that hopefully we'll get to, but the animals love to hear their voices. So sensing emotions. Animals experience emotions too. This is one of the key components to true animal communication. And intuitive listening includes sensing the emotions such as stress or joy, fear or contentment, often through subtle changes in behavior or energy. This is even more important as you live life with them, because you get to know them on a very deep level. It goes past surface to go underneath, which is true communication for any of us. Marge says it depends on what I'm seeing or hearing and how I ask a person how they're feeling. I agree. And Heather says you can see it in the animal's eyes and in the bark too. Heather says I continue to listen to and let them know they're here or I'm here. So empathetic engagement, what's that? Approach animals with empathy and try to feel what they may be feeling. That's always good for anybody, right? Please approach me with empathy. This will help build a deeper bond and understanding them better, which I'm pretty sure a lot, if not all of you do. Mindful presence, being fully present. Are you fully present now? Can you feel it? How do you know? Are you here in the show, or is your mind thinking about what you're going to do later at the grocery store? It means putting aside distractions and engaging them with full intention. Trusting intuition. Intuitive listening involves trusting that gut feeling and about what an animal needs or how it's feeling. Even if you can't immediately rationalize, just don't rationalize. I'm just going to say that straight out, that why you feel that way. And I want to pause for a minute before I go to the next slide, because I want to read you real quick what my teacher, Sharon Callahan, wrote so beautifully in her book about flower essences. And this book literally fell off the shelf yesterday and opened here. So I was like, oh, I think I'm meant to read it. So very briefly, for practicing listening, to listen, you must be quiet. When you look at something, a flower or an insect, for example, simply look at it, not naming, labeling, or classifying it. When you name, classify, or define, you're no longer listening. It sounds simple, but it's one of the most difficult things to accomplish. And it is absolute prerequisite to interspecies communication. If your mind is full of thoughts, ideas, theories, or labels, or if it's thinking ahead to the next moment, you will not be able to hear the other being. Humans tend to have so many theories and preconceived ideas that we seldom allow another being to actually speak for itself. Nothing can flow into a space that is already full. If you practice listening each day, you will find that you're able to expand the ability to listen more deeply and more in your daily life. I thought that was so beautiful. And her influence, her energy has been popping up in my field quite a bit. And so I was delighted that she and the animals encouraged that book to fall out. So back to the slides, learning individual differences. Just like humans, each animal is individual and unique. Intuitive listening helps in understanding the differences and adjusting your reactions or interactions accordingly. All of us know to create a calm environment. Just like us, animals are sensitive to the energy in their environment. Creating calm, peaceful environment facilitates better intuitive communication any day of the week. Patience and consistency. Developing intuitive listening skills with animals takes time and patience, but you got this. You're doing it already. Consistent, gentle interactions can build trust, making connections stronger. So some of you are asking the name of the book. The name of the book is Healing Animals Naturally with Flower Essences and Intuitive Listening. And I was shocked to see that. I haven't picked up this book in so long, and when it fell out, I was like, of course, I had forgotten that intuitive listening was in her book title, and her name is Sharon Callahan, and she is my mentor and taught me many insights about myself and the animals, many years, 15 years working with her. So going straight to the animals, let's look on their side. How do animals tune into us? They observe body language, right? Respond to tone of voice, sensing emotions, reacting to energy and atmosphere, recognizing familiar patterns, and using their senses. So they rely on their heightened senses. And some of that is they observe body language. So they read nonverbal cues. So Renee, I'm hoping I gave you those slides. Great. They're really good at reading body language with us and each other, right? They notice gestures, postures, movements, and will respond accordingly to that. They also, if you'll put up the next one, respond to tone of voice. Animals, particularly dogs and cats, are sensitive to tone of voice used by humans. I tell you that, I learned that with mine. Sensing emotions. Animals often pick up on humans' emotional states, even if they're not outwardly expressed. I had this interesting, Mary Foley wrote in, and Renee, if you'll leave that up for a minute, she said, Tammy, I was so lucky to be able to have you foster my Stormy. I was like, I don't know, I fostered. But then I remembered Ivy had the puppies, and I named the puppies from the Peanuts gang. And so her puppy Stormy was Marcy from Peanuts, so she could make her way to me. She has been my constant companion and best friend for 10 years now. She has a sixth sense, and whenever I have a migraine, it's like she knows what's going on and works to help in her own way. How are dogs so tied into us intuitively? Oh my gosh, I love that, because they do pick up on our emotional states. You can't hide. You think you're hiding, you can't hide. You can put on a happy face, the animal's going to read your energy in a nanosecond. So it's wonderful that's so easy for them tuning in like that. And I was like, oh, I love hearing from some of the babies that got adopted. And it was just, I was so thrilled to hear from her about Stormy, because Mom Ivy, who I got poison ivy when I got her in the bushes and she was pregnant, still has Patty, which in the group, she was Peppermint Patty. So Patty stayed with Mom, and they still live with me to this day. So they sense emotions really quickly, and they may become more attentive or comforting if they sense distress, or playful or energetic if they sense happiness. I'm sure you all have experienced that too. Susie says, Marshmallow is very sensitive to what I'm feeling and going through, loud meows and wanting to be near me. I think they also will, especially cats, will lay on us, right? They'll actually transfer energy with us. And so the next one would be they react to energy and atmosphere. They can be quite sensitive to the overall energy and atmosphere created by humans, right? How many of you have anxious animals, and how many of you are anxious? Haven't we all been anxious at times? You know, recognizing familiar patterns, animals learn from their interactions with humans and adjust their behavior based on what they intuitively understand about individual preferences and responses. So using their senses, animals are all about this. They have heightened senses that make it quite easy for them to gather information from the people around them. You can't fool them. You can't fool them. You can try. You can't do it. They are just accurate reads on us all the time. Susie said he wants to lay on my lap every day. So I want to give you kind of a little, not a challenge, but, you know, something to consider as you go forward in your day. And Renee, if you'd, hopefully I gave you that slide, intuitive listening practice with your pet, Yuan. It's going to be a good one and a fun one. So, you know, I would just affectionately start it out a day in the life of. And then what I'd like for you to do and consider is, Renee, if you put the next one up, morning observation. So start your day by quietly observing your pet for a few minutes. Notice their body language, energy levels, any sounds they make, and see if you can interpret what they might be feeling or wanting. And I bet you all are pros at this. I know our animals are pros at it for us, like they got this. But I'm pretty sure you can tell when your animal needs something or what they need. So morning observation, interactive play. When you're engaging in a playful activity with your pet, let them lead the game. Pay attention to how they choose to interact with you and their toys. This can give you insights into their preferences and moods. It's a great way to feel into them. And Renee, the next one, quiet time together. I always like this. Spend a quiet moment with your pet, perhaps sitting together calmly. Try to synchronize your breathing with theirs and see if you can pick up on any subtle cues or changes in their behavior. I always am talking to people and inviting them to do that, especially as an animal is in the end stages of life, because when we synchronize our breathing with them, when we synchronize and just pay attention to their heartbeat, we actually, it actually will join together. And the information, the instant access that you have is amazing. And it's always good to connect in that way. Some mealtime mindfulness. During mealtime, observe how your pet approaches their food. I think we're probably all pretty good at that, right? Are they excited, hesitant? Are they indifferent? And then we go, oh my gosh, I hope they feel okay. You know, try to sense their feelings. Do they need more variety? Are they like, oh, I am tired of what I have and I think I would like something else on the buffet. Pay attention, write all these down. Afternoon walk or exploration. If you have a dog, take them on a walk. And Renee, if you put that next slide up and let them choose the route, that is always fun. If you have a cat or other pet, observe their exploration patterns around the house or the yard. Notice what captures their interest and how they respond to different stimuli. See through their eyes. It's one of the most beautiful ways you can practice animal communication. See through their eyes. See through what they're seeing and feeling. An evening reflection. At the end of the day, spend a few minutes reflecting on what you observed. How many of you do that now? What things stood out? Because you're all practicing animal communicators, each and every one of you. It's a life skill. If we can communicate with animals, we can communicate with each other and ourselves. You know, consider any moments where you felt a strong connection or understanding with your pet. I know some of you on the show will say, oh, my pet just came over and laid right on my lap when you were talking. Notice the nuances. Notice the small details, the details in the moment that might otherwise get right by you because your mind is too busy. Jeannie David, my dog's name is Pudgy. She's like her mama, always happy with food. I love that. I love that. Then you can enjoy food together. I like that when we can see similarities with each other. And it's like, you are so much like me. I do the exact same thing. Jeff says, letting Trigger pick the route when we walk is so much fun. Squirrels always end up being involved. That is hysterical. I love that. Wouldn't that be just like, it would be fun just to watch the animals. They're like, oh, it's about time I get to pick the route. It's so funny. And Charmaine, oh, so good to see you. I did that with Blue before he passed away. It would wake me in the middle of the night. His heart would pound so hard and I would wake to mine pounding. We do synchronize with him. We absolutely do. And synchronize our breathing. Tete says, Jerry is so chill and relaxed. We are affectionate with each other. I feel like maybe I'm missing something. But then when he gives me that deep meow, I'm like, oh, okay, there's the difference. It's just really a matter of being with them. Definitely just being. And we can be with them without needing to know, right? You're going to get so much information. That's animal communication. Very much 101 is being in that receptive mode. And so the final thing about these exercises would be, of course, I'm going to have you get a journal, write down your observations and reflections. Over time, you might start to notice patterns or gain deeper insights into your pet's personality and inner world. And guess what? You'll gain insight into your own. We're always reflecting back to one another. And so before we go to the questions at this point in the show, I just wanted to share something. So I've been intuitively listening myself, and, I've been getting information and downloads about growing as a group and what we need to experience next. And so what I'd like to do with you and present is bringing you on the show. If you're interested in working with me, I'll bring a couple of guests. We'll try this out, see how it works. And if you're needing insight or clarity, we'll do what we would normally do in opening things up with diving in deep to some teaching and some understanding that we can share together, and then jump on like you always do. I love, me, I love interaction. I love that you're growing and your insights are so valuable. So I'd love to hear from you. I'd love to know what you'd like to work on with your animal. What's your animal trying to ask you? A lot of you will write in, and I go to the questions at the end of the show. And I'd like to jump in and take it a little deeper with you through having you as a guest on the show. So you just think about that. You know me, we're always going to have some kind of teaching, some kind of deeper interaction. And then I always love to give you things to take home, like a little goodie bag, whether it's exercises, something you can take into your life. So I'd love for you to give it a think. I'd love for you to join me. And if you're interested, email me and let me know. Tammy@tammyhendricks.com. This is going to get really started. Spirit is totally guiding this. And I'm going to be loving to see your energy step forward and work with you, at least a couple of you per show. Let's get down to it. Let's do some intuitive work together and let the animals bring you and guide you. Heather says, would love this, Tammy. You have helped me so much. So I'll tell you what, this is probably the direction I'll head. Join the animal group that I have. And Renee, if you would put the link to that up. When you join, I'm going to be jumping in there more and more, and I'm going to be presenting the questions sometimes to you. I might be doing some readings on this group. Jeff says that sounds like fun. I know it sounds like a lot of fun. So go to my Facebook group. If I could remember the name of it, the animals asked me to switch the name of it. Yes, it's the Soul Speak for Animals group. Of course, it would totally escape me at this particular time. But if you'll go to request to be in the group, it's guided toward the Rainbow Bridge Intuitive Group. I'd love for you to join. I'll be popping on. I'll be giving you more information on this. And I'm hoping to start our little, I guess, experiment with having you as a guest the next time we see each other. So come on over to the group. I'll open it up there. Rainbow Bridge Conversations with Tammy Hendricks. So I'd love to see you. If you're not already a member, please join. And I'm so honored that we're going to co-create in this way. Marge says, I love that website. So Renee, if we could get to a couple of questions, I'd love to. So the questions you've sent in are amazing. That the animals are guiding you to send in, by the way. So Tammy writes, hi, Tammy, I'd like to know if Chloe knows how much I love and miss her and to make sure she's not upset with me for having put her to sleep. I did everything in my power to keep her here with us. I'm getting all over body chills. I miss her so bad, and this house isn't the same without her. Well, talk about intuitive body listening. I'm feeling really, really emotional right now, and this is picking up on your energy, and she wants to reassure you and get in front of, for everybody. Tay says, I got the chills. I'm still getting them. This is such an important communication. They're never upset with us. They're never upset with us. We get upset with ourselves. It's we who are judgmental. She knows that you did everything in your power to keep her here. And it's not all up to us, by the way. We play a role with the animals. We don't play all the roles. We don't play the vet role. We don't play the roles where they pass at a certain time. Like, look, we don't have control of that. And aren't you glad of that? Aren't you glad of that? This is co-creating, is co-working with him. But she wants to tell you that she has been visiting you, and have you been listening? So I don't know if you've noticed anything lately, but if you'll look at her, she's a very direct communicator. Are the rest of you seeing and feeling that too? I'm just feeling such an important message today to get this through. They aren't upset with us. They're never upset with us. We're upset with ourselves. So she also says, and by the way, I'm very much not asleep. I'm very much alive. Are you listening? She wants to know. That is hysterical. Oh, I hope this helps. Don't blame yourself. No regrets. No regrets. And this is Mary's sweet boy, Casey. Truly my soul dog, preciousness. He and I became so close, we understood and communicated daily through our thoughts and hearts. I miss his soulful eyes and overall sweetness. It feels like a part of my being is gone. I don't seem to be able to communicate with him anymore. Well, yeah, I'm pretty sure you're communicating with him by writing in, and he's communicating with us. Anybody else feel that way too? You can't get to the show without that. They're definitely communicating. It's how are we listening? And he does have he's like, thank you. I did have and do have very soulful eyes. And it's like, look into my eyes. You're getting sleepy. And he wants you to know that he is still very, very much a part of you. And you are very much communicating with him because your heart is opening. And by being on the show and reaching out, this will continue to open for you. So be patient. Keep a journal. He's helping with this. He's helping all of us. So I don't know if we have time for a quick one next. This is Gunnar. Gunnar is very vocal. This is Jolene. She wants to know how she can understand what Gunnar's trying to say. Yes, he's very vocal. He actually likes his voice very much. He says he could be an opera singer. He likes to try out the different tones, and he likes that he's so noisy. Very noisy. He is actually loving the being like an opera star, he says. Yes, and he loves getting attention. And so he says he will continue to work with you on the communication skills he has. Jolene, he is preciousness, and he is communicating to us all today. Well, it's been a wonderful time together. I've loved every minute. Please hop over and join my Facebook group. I'd love to see you there. And if you already belong, welcome anyway. The more the merrier. Some of you already belong to that. Yes, we'll be doing more in that too. Hope you have a great week. And as always, let's keep this conversation going. I'll see you next time.
You've been enjoying Tammy's Soul Speak featuring animal intuitive and medium Tammy Hendricks.